Happy Friday, guys, and welcome into WagerTalk TV. This is PuckTime. Really looking forward to today's show. I am, of course, Andrew McGinnis, and I have Bryan Leonard with me. Carmine has the day off. He is celebrating a birthday with his wife, but he'll be back next week. Looking forward to breaking down two games. We have Panthers, Leafs, Golden Knights, and Oilers. Some really great games to go over. Of course, the Maple Leafs are still fighting off elimination. Vegas and Edmonton, well, a little bit of a different scenario, but this game has lots of meaning, to say the least. Bryan, looking forward to breaking these down. How you doing, Bryan?
I'm doing well. I was lucky enough to get my best bet on the show yesterday with Carolina. I don't know if that was the right side. To me, it was a 50-50 game and ended up getting the correct response. But yeah, hopefully we can get another winner tonight. It's getting real exciting as these tournaments and these series has come down to the end. It's and then in the second game we're going to talk about. We got a lot to talk about in that one.
Definitely. Yeah, it was crazy, and I got to say this, even though it's not really betting related, I did feel bad that the Carolina series ends on a power play. I just don't like seeing that. It's like a game in the NBA being decided by free throws. That stuff happens, but it was a puck over the glass, delay of game call, and that's how things get decided. That was a bit rough, but Carolina is built for overtime. They always score crappy goals, tips at the net, that's what they do. That's the kind of hockey they play. And of course, they have punched their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals. Dallas, they have a big response, and Roope Hintz, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3-point night for him. The stars are certainly shining on that team. And yes, the pun is intended, but they're playing really well. Ottinger's playing well, but I wouldn't count Seattle out of that series either. Bryan, before we start the show, what do you have going on this weekend? What's going on for you and your clients? How was your week? And if you have anything to promote, let's hear it.
Yeah, we did lose the 5% play earlier in the week. Unfortunately, everything else has been cashing. Another winner yesterday, Major League Baseball in Tampa Bay Rays. I just put up my baseball package for today. We've got 4 plays up, and the good news for baseball is they're all on the evening card. So you got plenty of time to get a hold of these plays. I do have one play in hockey, and we'll give that to everybody who's watched this today as our best bet. Nothing in the NBA thus far. I'm still working on that. I want to put one of those up as a free play. But yeah, exciting times, and should be a really nice weekend of sports viewership.
Looking forward to it. And I had the Rays as well yesterday, and that was nice. I mean, it was looking pretty good, and then it got really good. So you got to love those ones. I've got a top play in the MLB tonight, UFC action going tomorrow. And, of course, we always have some NHL action to take a look at. So let's dive into the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, Bryan, the series is now back in Toronto, Canada for game number 5. Of course, Toronto, they avoided the sweep. They're back at home feeling good. Joseph Woll looked very comfortable, but I would say he looked comfortable, but the team also played very well defensively. Toronto now minus 170, Florida plus 150, total at 6.5, shaded towards the over minus 125. And, Bryan, I just wanted to say that I'm not a huge coach's quote guy because I find that every handicapper can just twist it to whatever narrative they want. But I did love that Paul Maurice looked at the media and he was kind of messing with them. And he just said, yeah, we lost a game. Like, that is what it is. We lost, we're up 3-1 in the series still. Let's not act like something bad is happening. We didn't expect to win this series 4 straight. And I kind of like that. He's a very veteran coach. And you know what? I get accused of bashing the Leafs and everything, and I know the commenters don't like that, but I will say that him and Sheldon Keefe are 2 different style of coaches. One is more of a player's coach, and one's more of an old school coach. But I have to say, I love that mindset of Paul Maurice just saying, relax, guys. We're still up 3-1, but I think Toronto did play their best defensive game of the playoffs. What do you have for us for this game?
Yeah, Toronto's defense, and you see this a lot in the NHL where you have an inexperienced goalie. They tend to play more in the defensive end, trying to protect him. And Toronto did a very good job on that. The goalie was very good, no doubt about it, and he's the future of Toronto. But keep in mind, he didn't have a really tough day. Florida didn't put too many high danger chances on him, and it was one of those games that very much like last time they played. I thought that was a coin flip game. The expected goals said it was a coin flip game, and the coin flipped against us as we had Florida. But it worked out well for Toronto, and they've gained a bit of confidence out of it. But you're right. The Florida coach said, "Hey, we played our game. We played well. Hats off. That happens in hockey, in playoff hockey, and we didn't win that one. We'll come back to the next game. We're not going to make any vital changes. They'll come back with about the same thing. This worked for them so far. I mean, if you're up 3-0 in a series, something's going well, and it's up to the other team to make the adjustments, not you. And the adjustment that Toronto made was to pull it back a little bit, protect the goalie, and it worked out well. And I believe you had the over in that, and you were kicking yourself. But if Florida scores that first goal instead of Toronto, you got a totally different hockey game. Toronto got that one, scored the first goal, then it was very conservative. Florida scores that first goal, then Toronto's got to open it up a little bit. So that's one of the reasons I don't play a lot of totals in hockey. Is it all depends on how the game goes. You're winning the game for 55 minutes, and then all of a sudden they pull a goalie and something like that. So, but I think that wasn't a bad play. It just so happened that Toronto got the first goal instead of Florida. I look for something very similar in that one here. And I prefer the Florida side. I used them as a 5%. Didn't get it the other day. I think we get 3/5 of our money back as we're using a 3-star play today on Florida. Florida's been much more consistent. Toronto got that win. I know that the Toronto fans were thinking, okay, here we go. It's still tough to win 4 straight games in the NHL. It's tough to win that in any sport. But they played a really good game, and everybody talked about that. That was the complete game that Toronto played, and yet they only won by 1 goal. So you got the best out of Toronto, winning by a small margin. I think Florida wins this one, and the price is right. Give me Florida, and hopefully this series ends for me. But if not, we'll get a chance to play it again in the next one. So more gambling opportunities.
Great stuff there, Brian. And you're right. I mean, that game could have gone a lot of different ways if there weren't some key saves and some big defensive plays that were made. And I like what you said about them kind of sitting back, because I think that they recognized that their offense wasn't really showing up. But also, you know what? If they're going to beat Florida, they have to pack it in and play a really good defensive game. They did that. They do seem locked in, but like you said, it's very hard to win 4 straight. It's almost kind of funny that they might avoid the sweep in Florida, but go back home and lose in front of their own fans. But I got to give respect. The fact of the matter is, I want to make this very clear. The fact is, in this one, I know you can bet regulation and different things like that, but the simple thing for me here is that the price, right? There's nothing I've seen that tells me the Leafs should be minus 170. This price of minus 170 has a whole hell of a lot to do with the regular season. And I've mentioned this all the time. I don't care about the regular season anymore. These teams, I'm handicapping them based on playoff performance. And from what I've seen in the playoffs, Toronto does not deserve to be minus 170. So for everybody that calls me a Leafs hater, if this was Pick'em, sign me up for a Leafs play. This is a value play for me, looking at this. And to Brian's point, we saw the analytics say that Toronto played really well to start the series off. Then they win last game where they maybe didn't even play like to the top of their game, just well defensively. But let's take a look at the goals they've scored. Last game, they scored 2. The game before that, they scored 2. In game 2, they scored 2. And in game 1, they scored 2. This Maple Leafs team is known for winning games by scoring 4 or 5 goals during the regular season. Now they meet a hot goaltender in Sergei Bobrovsky. You got to think the Panthers are going to score more than 1 goal tonight. So I'm really interested to see. We still haven't seen much from Matthews. Marner and Nylander woke up quite a bit last game. I'm going to reiterate what I said last show. And Brian, I know this might be a little ambitious, but I think that anybody that likes Florida, you're already getting the plus 150. I do think that if Florida wins, they will win by more than 1 goal. You can get that at plus 300. So I might do a split on Florida and puck line reverse if you do like Florida. the empty net goal factor. And I think that if Toronto wins tonight, they're going to win another tight one. If Florida wins, they're going to win in convincing fashion. But when I look at this, I think I'm going to look at the under, Brian, and then there might be like an in-game over opportunity, but 6.5, getting to 7 goals is a lot. And just based on what I just read, I'm kind of just going off recent history, right? I'm tired of waiting for these breakout games when we simply haven't seen it. Joseph Wall looked good back there, young goaltender. His team looked strong defensively in front of him. There weren't that many odd man rushes like we've seen in the first couple games in this series. I'm actually leaning towards the under, and if you ask me at the, before game one of this series, I would say this is going to be the craziest series of the playoffs, as far as goals are concerned. It really hasn't been that. But do you have any thoughts on those? And am I being a little too ambitious there with that plus 300? Or do you agree with me that if Florida wins, they probably win by more than one?
Yeah, I would think so. And you talked about playing the end game. If Toronto does what they did in the first game, we've already seen if they've got a lead what their response is going to be, and that's going to be shut it down, play the defense. So with a game with a total in this range, if you're playing in game and Toronto does score that first goal, we've already seen what they want. So we may be able to get a little bit of an edge in playing the under in the end game. And very similar to what I spoke about earlier, if Florida gets on, then Toronto's going to get back into their old habits of saying, hey, we're behind now. We got to stress the offense. And if they do that with, very talented goaltender, but inexperienced, this could be a higher scoring game. So it's one of those situations where you've got a favorite and under may be correlated and the dog and the over may be correlated. So we'll have to see how that works out.
I would definitely agree with that. Again, guys, you can find both of us over at WagerTalk.com. Appreciate all of you chatting right now in the live chat, everyone that comments afterwards. We love doing these shows. I'm really happy to have Brian with me. And, we really enjoy breaking down hockey. And these games are so fun right now to look at. It's a little bit different than in the regular season when, come best bet time, we don't have 13 games to choose from, Brian. It's just 2 games and we have our client plays and things. But we love doing these shows. And for all of you guys interested in getting our best bets, you can use TryWT if you have not purchased yet and take 50% off a package for a 1-day or 3-day pass. So you guys can definitely use those. I think I speak for Brian as well when I recommend a 3-day all access pass for anybody, because you really do get everything we release. You buy one play, $25, for $69, you can get a really good deal with that 3-day. So try WT though. If you have not used it before, it's really great to take 50% off a 1-day or 3-day all access pass. Brian, I'm really curious what you have for us in this next one. Let's head over to the Western Conference. I know this is a division you follow very closely, and it's been a hell of a series to say the least. Ever since game one, there really hasn't been many close games, has there?
Yeah, before we get to talking about this, I want to go back to the promo with the 3-day package. This is actually the best time to buy it because on Mondays, you've got $9 Mondays. On Thursdays, you got half price throwback Thursdays. So now the next 3 days, you'll be paying full price. So I would recommend to get that right now. This is the perfect day to get it because, as you mentioned, you've got UFC going. And if you like UFC, the UFC, there's a lot of guys out there that do it. That's a full slate of weekend. Everybody plays all weekend. So this is the best time to buy that. So if you are on the fence, try that out for today and you'll get the entire weekend from any of us for 50% off. This is very interesting game. I don't know where to go. For those who have followed me in this series, I picked the Golden Knights game one as an underdog. They had the advantage in rest, and it paid off. They were the better team. After that, I came back and played Edmonton plus either 110 or 120 to win the series because it's not a very good matchup for Vegas. Vegas is a team who 5-on-5 is the better team. Problem is their power play is crap. And even with Stone back. It has not performed well. And Edmonton is terrific on the power play. Now we're coming off that last game where Edmonton wins 4-1. They looked very much in control the entire game. And as the game went on, as we've all saw, frustrations came into account. They come into account anytime there's a blowout or a big lead. And now each team will be missing their best defensive player. So your first thought would be, okay, well, maybe this is a higher scoring game tonight. But then you realize that both Nurse and Pietrangelo are very key to the offense on these teams from a defensive standpoint. So maybe you can disregard that. But I run into the same problem as I had originally with this series is if it's 5-on-5, Vegas wins. If it's any type of an advantage for Edmonton on a penalty, Edmonton crushes. Well, now we've got two teams that are really upset about the way the last game was called and what happened. Is Vegas going to pull back and just try to play the 5-on-5, or will they come out and try to be more physical, which the refs are clearly going to be looking for coming into this game? There'll be penalties. If there's anything that was questionable, there'll be penalties. They're going to shut it down early so they don't get what they had at the end of the game. So I think there's going to be the penalties. And if there's penalties, you've got to look at Edmonton. Edmonton's about a 130 favorite here. Vegas is good at home, but they've been playing much better on the road all season long. What I think is probably going to happen is this will be a physical game. Edmonton's going to get the power plays. They'll be able to score. They'll take a 3-2 series lead back to Edmonton, and then Vegas will have their backs to the wall and going to have to keep the Oilers from beating us from the power play.
It is one of those things where if you look at things 5-on-5, it's a whole new series. Mm-hmm. And this Oilers team, they're not a bad team 5-on-5, but they certainly are a different team in comparison to Vegas, taking away those penalties. And, Brian, it's interesting. I think I've heard you speak about this before, but I notice this all the time. Like I go to a lot of like junior hockey games, and I used to cover the league. And a lot of times a poor power play actually hurts a team because it almost is like a bit embarrassing. Like if you go out there and if you have a couple power plays in a row and you're not really doing anything and the other team keeps dumping it down, you got to go chase it down. It's almost like some teams wish they could just refuse the power play. They're like, this is embarrassing. We're not doing anything, right? And so it almost, in a weird way, takes momentum away from you. And I when I say this, I mean no disrespect to Darnell Nurse, but I do think that this trade-off, whether anybody agrees with who got suspended for how many games, I think that it benefits Edmonton. Because I think Pietrangelo, like you mentioned, he contributes more offensively. I think that it'll just be a lot more minutes for some guys for the Oilers defense to step up defensively with Nurse's absence. I think he's a great player. But I think offensively, it hurts Vegas more than it does offensively for the Oilers, which I think Vegas has kind of realizing now that they might need to score 3, 4, or 5 goals to beat the Oilers. I don't think we'll see a game where the Oilers score, less than 3 goals again for the rest of this series. I mean, we haven't seen it so far. So that could really hurt them big time. We're getting the 7 at plus 115. And I got to say, I because of what you said there and just in general with the physicality, it is kind of hard for me to imagine not seeing a lot of goals in this series. I mentioned in the Toronto series, not overthinking it and looking at the results we've seen already and looking towards the under. Now in this series, not every game has gone over, but that's also due to the blowout factor. We saw a back-to-back 5-1 games. Both those should have gone over the total, Brian. But they didn't because one team was dominating so much, they were able to just park the bus, to use a soccer expression there, and they didn't need to score anymore. I do think this one can go over, but I'll probably look towards some player props and some team totals as well. But I'll tell you what, the first period overs are hitting at an alarming rate. And we talk about this during the show. if you want to avoid what happened with those games that went 5-1, you play the first period, right? Because, then that way you're not having a 5-1 game with 10 minutes to go in the third and nobody's scoring. And if you're someone that doesn't want to lay the minus 175 or 80 on the 1.5, you can bet the 2. And I'll tell you what, a lot of times when I've done that in a series like this one, worst thing that's happened to me is I get the push. The first periods have been huge in this series for goals. I might be looking at the first period over 2 at a plus price versus looking at a heavy price on the 1.5. But I'm with you, Brian. When handicapping this series, it really is a lot about the power plays. And as I've talked about on our prop show, Prop It Up, it's so interesting when you take a look at the power play point props, how much more value you can get on those compared to just regular props. And when you have a team like Edmonton that's over 50% on the power play, not really a bad idea to look at. So looking forward to this game, though. And I got to ask your thoughts. I know you're not a first period guy, but what do you think about kind of how I feel about betting the first period total?
Yeah, I would agree. Edmonton has scored the first goal in every one of these games. And unlike at the beginning of the series where Brossoit was in goal for Vegas and they had a capable backup, I hate to say this, but Quick would be our guy if Hill gets hurt. And Quick is just the opposite of his name any longer. He's just a step behind. And if Hill gets hurt in this game, I'm going to be betting the over. I tweeted something out to Marco the other day. I says, if we see Quick, man, as soon as that is announced that he's back in the lineup, that we start playing the over, because you've got the most talented offensive players in the league going up against a goalie who's seen better days, and he's been a tremendous hockey player in his career, but I don't want him in this in the playoffs here. So it's keep in mind that if something happens to Hill, start loading up on Edmonton and loading up on the over, and that's something to do in game.
And Hill didn't look too solid himself, and it's very difficult. People don't realize how hard it is to just jump into a playoff series, and that's why I give lots of credit to Joseph Woll there for Toronto. I mean, being a rookie coming in when you're down 3-0 is not easy, and he did a good job. So hard to argue seeing goals or not seeing a defensive game between these two teams. Just a matter of if you like the 7 or not. Maybe we'll see goals early and the game to slow down. Guys, even though Carmine isn't with us on the show today, I want to let you guys know he's going to have soccer action this weekend. He has had an unbelievable NHL season. You can get all his plays, of course, as well at WagerTalk.com. If you're not betting Carmine soccer, you should, because whenever I text him and ask him for a play, I don't usually regret it. So definitely take advantage of those. He's not just doing well in hockey. He does well in soccer as well. We have the charity challenge picks. I'll get to those right now. Then we'll go to Brian. For Carmine, he is going to go with none other than the superstar from the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, over 3.5 shots on goal. He's been aggressive all playoffs long, especially in this series. And they want to take a big jump on this series. So Carmine looking at McDavid, shots on goal over the 3.5 there. For me, I'm going to stick with the Edmonton theme for my charity pick here and go with the over 3.5 goals for the Edmonton Oilers. I believe they've now hit this in 6 of their last 7 playoff games. And now that you see the odds kind of tilt a little bit, you're only getting minus 120 on this one. Last time out, it was about minus 160, 170. So getting minus 120 on this, I think, is a really good price there. And let's be honest, if my pick hits, I think we feel pretty good about Carmine's and vice versa. So McDavid over shots and Oilers team total over the 3.5. Brian, over to you for your best bet for today. And again, what do you have going this weekend? Any last things you wanted to mention?
Yeah, the one hockey, and you'll get that in just a moment. And we have the 4 Major League Baseball plays. Some nice underdogs on today's card that I think has some value. Yeah, we'll go back to the first game we discussed, Florida against Toronto. Toronto's rookie goalie was very good, but he didn't get a lot of pressure out of Florida the first game. But yet, when you look at the analysis on that game and the way it played out from from an expected goal standpoint, it could have gone either way. And once Toronto scored their first goal, they shut it down a little bit. I think it's a little bit more open-minded in this one, especially if Florida scores first. So give me Florida at plus the 150 range. Just like you said, Toronto deserves to be a favorite in this game, but 170 is crazy, at least in my opinion. Florida has no reason to be a 150 underdog the way this series has gone. It could lose. It's an underdog. It's supposed to lose, but I don't think it will. I like Florida here, and that'll be my best bet on the show.
All right, going with Florida, closing out the series tonight. Wouldn't that be a bit torturous for them to go back to Toronto just to lose? And Brian's taking the underdog, the Panthers, to punch their ticket. Wouldn't that be a wild conference final? The Panthers and the Hurricanes. Best bet material. Great stuff, Brian. Guys, best bet up for me today in the MLB. We got UFC tomorrow. NHL, you pretty much have heard most of my thoughts today here on the show. But I do have a prop. And Brian mentioned that it's going to be a very physical game between Edmonton and Vegas. And I've got my eye on Evander Kane to have a good game tonight to record a point. Some players, they thrive under the physicality. They like playing aggressive hockey. I think we all know Evander Kane is that kind of guy. Minus 135, he's still a great player. He can still score and set guys up, but he also knows how to be very physical around the net. Most guys on Edmonton, because they score so many goals, you're getting a very steep price on them to record a point. Evander Kane, minus 135. That's a price I can live with. So I'll take him for my best bet here on the show. You can find all of today's picks on the board, guys. Brian with Florida. We've got the shots on goal prop for McDavid. I have the team total for the Oilers. Just a great, great show here today on PuckTime. WagerTalk today coming up at 12 o'clock Eastern. We've got the first pitch show, NBA tip-off. So many great shows going on today on WagerTalk TV. So I want to thank Brian for joining me. All of you guys every single day for supporting us here on PuckTime. Really does mean a lot to me. And I wish you all the best of luck. Take care, and we'll see you on Monday.
A 7-day all-access pass is a great way to get a week of your favorite WagerTalk handicapper selections for under $15 per day. An all-access pass includes all plays in all sports released from your favorite WagerTalk expert, including any top-rated 5% plays generally priced at $35. Well, we not only made the 7-day all-access better this week, but we made it 50% better. From now through Sunday, May 21st, you can head to your favorite handicappers page and get the 7-11 special, giving you 11 days of all-access service for the same $99 we normally charge you for 7. It's like getting a $59 3-day pass and a $39 1-day pass for free. So pick one, pick two, or pick all your favorite handicappers and get their all-access service for the next 11 days for only $9 per day per handicapper.